Today's topic is on the illusion of shortcuts. I went backpacking this summer with my daughter, and we were with a group of people, but there's several places where you had to hike up a very steep area of the mountain. And the people that had made the trail had created switchbacks for you to go up. And so if you've never been on a switchback backpacking, you effectively hike to one end of the mountain, go up a little bit, then hike over to the other end of the mountain, go up a little bit, hike to the other end. So you keep switching back. And the reason you do this is to decrease the severity of the incline so that it's easier for you to perform. Of course, my daughter hasn't been backpacking that often. So she kept seeing shortcuts where she could scale up the side of the mountain and skip the switchback. So she kept wanting to do that. Eventually, I just decided to just go ahead and let her. So she goes up to the next, she gets up to the, and then she's crawling and scraping her way up. And then she sits there out of breath and waits for me, and I catch up, and then she does it again. And we both get up to the top of the mountain roughly the same time, but she is significantly, tired now. She's worn herself out. Now, I've learned over years and years of practice that cutting a shortcut is not a good idea. Making a shortcut on a switchback is not a good idea. Number one, it destroys the beauty of the environment. The trail's there, use the trail. But beyond that, it tires you out quicker because you're making an ascent up a straight incline. It also increases your risk for injury. Not major injury, but you could cause a rock slide, or you could hurt your hands or knees or elbows or hands falling over. You could get scraped up by bushes and brambles, and a variety of other things that can go wrong. It also distracts you a little bit. When you're hiking on a switchback, you're staying steady and consistent. But when you're doing shortcuts all over the place, you're taking a significant amount of energy to do that, and then you are getting back to walking. I've noticed that over time, backpacking, just stay steady and consistent and don't worry about any shortcuts. The shortcuts always cause you problems. So that's kind of an analogy to talk a little bit about the problem with shortcuts. Now, I'm not saying all shortcuts are bad. Sometimes you can find a shortcut to do something and it saves you a lot of time and money, and that can be good. However, you need to understand that shortcuts have a problem, a couple of major problems. First problem is they don't always give you the compounding effect that accumulation gives you. So when you're working on solving something and you go through it the hard way, and as you go through it, you're accumulating more and more talent, and you start learning how to do things on your own and figure it out, you start building a reservoir of accumulated value. And eventually that starts to compound and you become really good at it. So I had an opportunity to work next to somebody who was a great woodworker once. And I can do the basics with woodworking, but I am as amateur as it gets. But this person had been doing it for years, and you could just tell where his value was, because this person had so much efficiency in how they did their woodwork. They moved quicker. They knew how to do things. They knew exactly what tool to use. As opposed to me, I'm studying it with angst, measuring 15 times, worried about exactly how to do it, forgetting what tool to use. So there's just a lot of inefficiency in my process versus this person's. So as you learn to go through something and you work on it over time, you accumulate value. Shortcuts, although may get you somewhere quicker, they don't accumulate value such as learning it on your own. There's an undeniable psychological allure to going down a shortcut. The thrill of getting there faster. However, you may get reduced effort and expanded results. However, sometimes it can be very detrimental to you. You can be over-reliant on these shortcuts and not exactly know how to do it yourself. You habitually rely on them, so you don't really have a talent there. Like, for example, I write a blog every day, and there is an allure to using almost exclusively AI tools nowadays because they can do a pretty darn good job. The problem with that is you become reliant on it, and then you don't become a good writer yourself. So your ideas become very stale. So I've had to force myself to come up with ideas and come up with structure and write the ideas out. Now, I use AI tools to help me, but it's a process that I've invented for myself. And it's something I know how it works because I know exactly where it's helping me versus just completely relying on a tool to do it for you. So shortcuts will oftentimes dilute your effort so much so that you will not get the compounding effect of accumulated effort. There's also a problem with shortcuts in that they have external influences oftentimes. Rarely will you find a shortcut that was created by another person that directly benefits your goal and your desires and what you're trying to achieve. So as a consequence, when you go down a shortcut, you are prone to distraction and prone to having your goal and your ambition slightly modified by the person who authored the shortcut. I've discovered this all the time. Like, I've created a process in my mind for something I'm trying to accomplish with what I'm doing all day long with these blogs. Every day I write these blogs and I've got kind of an ambition I'm trying to achieve. It's my own ambition. It's not monetary, nothing, but I have a particular thing I'm trying to accomplish. And I've from time to time, I'll hear of a YouTuber or somebody on X or LinkedIn that's got a great idea, a great shortcut for how to do certain things better. And I'll get enthralled by that and I'll look at what they're doing. But what I've noticed is that their goal for doing that is different than mine. So what it ends up doing is it shifts what I'm trying to accomplish ever so slightly more aligned with what they're doing. And that's not good. I want it to be my objective. Now, I should learn from others, but I've got to go through the effort myself so that I can keep myself on a self-proclaimed path rather than a shortcut that somebody else has created. I would argue that shortcuts are good when they're your own shortcuts. So if I've created my own self-defined strategy for accomplishing something, and then I figured out a way to do it better, and I've become efficiency at it, then you become more proficient, which stems from efficiency. And that becomes why you're so awesome. This is why you have so much expertise. Because over time, just like that woodworker, you have figured out how to do things to produce a result. So consistent effort reaps the greatest rewards because you start to accumulate value and you start to gain efficiencies that you yourself design. This is what separates the really successful from the just okay. It's amazing when you see somebody who's really successful. Like, you'll see musicians, for example, that are incredibly successful at what they do, and they're incredibly successful for a long period of time. So you're wondering what separates them from everybody who's just okay at it. It's exactly this rule. Although they may know shortcuts now, they didn't take them when they were in their process of discovery. And that's the critical factor here. So anyway, I think any journey towards personal growth is less about finding the shortcut to get there and more about finding the path of consistent effort and resilience where we can accumulate more value over time.